Right, welcome. So today we are continuing the build on the Project Fox, and today we need to sort out the gearbox because if you remember in the first video, I mentioned when we were coming down that it would get stuck in gear. It wouldn't want to come out of fourth, it wouldn't want to go into fifth, it would just get stuck at random points. So today we need to firstly fix the box, and we also need to take it from looking like this to looking like this. First things first, let's try and figure out what the cause of the problem is with the gearbox. What our initial plan was, we are going to completely strip the box to just make sure, okay, everything is in good order. But before we did that, we needed to check the
Detent.
tins, D10, the D10. Okay, the way you pronounce it, everyone pronounces it differently. But we're going to call it D10 because that's how you spell it. So, now, on your gearbox, this is where you're gonna find your detent. It's gonna be on the selector shaft. So this, to be specific, is a ball detent. Now what a ball detent is a cylinder that's been bored out and has a spring that's putting pressure down onto a ball, which then helps with the resistance of the overall whatever moving part is being used for. For example, with the gearbox, the ball detent sits by the selector. When you put it into first, the ball detent will then go onto the first selecting rod and then just make sure that the first selecting rod is where it needs to be. Because if it's not where it needs to be, then you're not going to be able to get fast, or there's just going to be a lot of play even though you're supposed to be in first, and that's just gonna cause a lot of issues. But it's something small that causes such a big problem that you'll start thinking, oh gosh, I'll buy a new clutch, I'll buy a new gearbox, in fact, now, because no one can just seem to figure out what's wrong or what's causing this issue. Now, because we had the box out of the car, that means that we had more space to work with it. So because of that, we used a spanner and a 4-pound hammer to actually get it loose. It was extremely tight, that's why we needed a 4-pound hammer to just bang it loose. So this is when we discovered our problem. Yeah. So as you can see, this was the issue. The detent was broken and it actually gave off a burning smell. That's why you can see it's very black around the top edge where it broke off. This is what it's supposed to look like, and the one that came out of my box, you can clearly see it doesn't. However, when we put the new detents in, we weren't able to get reverse, so we got an antenna and we fished out the missing piece of the old detent. Yes, you can see the ball completely broke off and got stuck in. Yes. However, now that the ball's out of the way, second, third, fourth, 5. You know, the key got a, but I think now when it came here, it was just loose. The thing was just doing that, it was loose. So now that we know that the car's at least selecting gears, we just wanted to make sure what condition the selector was in. Now to do that, we need to pull off the front cover here. Now what we used to actually loosen or take the front cover off was this homemade tool that we made, and it does the trick. It gets the front cover off. There's it on screen now, and we just need to see if there's any damage to the selector. So after twisting it back and forth, just trying to loosen it and find a way to get it out, it eventually just popped out. Now with us having it out, it's time to just go over and make sure there isn't any serious damage done to the selector, because we don't know how much damage was done, because with us basically forcing it to go into gear, we don't know if that ball was just actually creating damage now with us forcing it to go into gear. Got a dent here. It's dented. Got dent there and dent here. Yeah, but this is not dent, this is like scratching. We then opted with the route of just cleaning it, so we did exactly that. We oiled it up and then we put it back into place. Another light in here. Oh, okay. So then after getting it into position, we tighten the cap and that was us, done and dusted. So next we need to put in the detent. So we poured oil into the hole straight onto the selector to just help with lubrication so that there's no friction that will cause the ball on the detent to just run a bit too hard. So also we're gonna put oil straight onto the detent and just move the ball around, push it down, and just get oil in there. So at no point in time should this thing ever seize up. So it should be good for the rest of its life in this gearbox, hopefully. We then took thread tape and put it on the threads to just help just seal it in place. And also because we saw on the old detent that there was thread tape also applied to it, so we're just gonna put thread tape onto it. So with the thread tape being applied, we're gonna put it into position and then just screw it on. It's not a difficult thing to take out, just depends on how hard it was tightened originally. So after a good few turns, you should get it tight, and then you can use your spanner in a 4 pound to just tighten it. Or if your box is already still in the car, well, you can use a power bar long extension, and if you're able to reach it, tighten it that way. So now with us having the box operating the way it should be, it's time to actually just start cleaning it. And we decided to opt for taking the mounting bracket off and just clean it properly with that off. So that's what we're gonna take off now. So we're gonna use a spanner and a ratchet to just loosen the bolts and pull that mounting off.
Get sort this out, get this sorted out, then we can put the box on.
Now there's still so much to do before we put that box on, like draining the oil. That is exactly what we're doing right now. So we actually got a bent bolt that we use to loosen the nut or the drain plug for the gearbox. So it's just generally it's a bent bolt that we use with the handle from a jack. You just twist it and it's gonna loosen it. Now also something, when you're gonna be removing the cap for the side cover, it's a green cap. This is now if you want to change the release bearing, which we are going to do. Well, often people use the arm of the gearbox to actually just knock the cover loose. However, you do run the risk of that arm proceeding to go through the cover. This is what the cover looks like now that the metal shaft came through it. You can see how it punched a hole straight through the cover. So yeah, if you are gonna try and remove it with the arm, well, do just be careful because this is a very possible outcome to happen. So just be careful. So once you actually get that top cover off, this is what you're gonna see. That is the metal shaft that's sticking out. That is what actually bangs against the cover to lift it up. And this is also where you're gonna find your release bearing. But before we actually remove that cover, well, we took the drain plug off because we need to drain all the gearbox oil out of the gearbox. So with us just tilting the box over the wall to just help it, well, drain out easier and faster, this was a method to do. However, it took quite a bit of time. As you can see from the cloud movement, yeah, the oil took some time to come out. So after about a good 5 minutes of draining the oil, we said, okay, it should be drained out. And then we moved on to pulling that top cover off. So with the help of a 4 pound hammer and a big screwdriver, we managed to get that top cap off because I mean, it was already broken. So there's no point of trying to bring it off in one piece. So we just pulled it off and that was that. We then took the box, moved it to our little grass patch and proceeded to clean it off because this gearbox was so dirty, just like the engine block. it was covered in years of dirt,
Yeah, near the
and as
top
you can
there's
see,
like a
it
small
needed
piece
a
to
lot
block in
of
the hole here.
scrubbing and just getting the grease and grime off of it. And as we were cleaning and really just getting into it, well, the weather decided to change on us. So some dark clouds blew in and some raindrops started to fall. And at first it wasn't too bad, you know, a light drizzle carried on working. Few drops aren't gonna kill anyone. However, it just kept getting so much worse, and you can actually see how it progresses on screen right now. You can just see the rain comes more and more, and then to a point where we couldn't work. It was We are basically getting flooded out, and that was our day done.
One week later.
So today we are tackling the gearbox. As you can see, I did some cleaning in the week, didn't get any footage of it, however, but I did sort of cleaning. It wasn't a really good job, but it is a lot better than what it was. I mean, because if you look like in here, still needs to be cleaned out, it's still dirty. So, well, we're gonna sort all that out because the box needs to be painted, and we're gonna put new seals in here, change it. So, this is the challenge for today. Now to actually change the seals, simple. There's a top cover you need to remove, hammer, screwdriver. You know, it's the easiest way to do it. And I think it's really the only way. There's no way to really get it out besides replacing those top caps, because the seals comes with the new cap. So as you can see, got that top cap off, and this is what you agree to it. So we took a cloth, put a screwdriver to just dry up whatever oil is inside, so we can actually see what we're working with. So now that we dried out all the oil, we can see the circlip and how we
The
need to
other
remove it. So we're gonna grab the
circlip
pliers
is
and just try and open to get the circlip out. And if you've ever tried to remove a circlip, then you know how hard it can be sometimes, because it'll fight you and you're just gonna struggle to get it out. But eventually it's gonna come out. And when it actually did come out, I didn't actually get it on camera. So yeah, so circle out. Now we can move on. We need to knock this cup out, and it's a bit harder than you think. So we just had to just keep banging it until it came out. And when I say it took a lot of banging, it took a lot of banging. And then after about 3 minutes of consistent banging, it popped out. So now to pull the seal out, very simple. Just get a large screwdriver and pry it out. There's no special way of doing it. Just use a screwdriver and pry it out. Now we actually noticed that with us banging using the chisel and the hammer, we actually did some damage to the box that you can see shortly. But this is what the seal looks like. And you can see there is only a bit of damage from us prying it out. But you can see on the box some marks from the chisel and just the banging. But it's fine, no real damage to the overall box. It's just exterior visual damage, so nothing really to stress about. So we move on.
and tell them, yeah, you can use the wheel bolt. The wheel bolt with a 17 spanner. For the fuller plug, you can use the wheel bolt and a 17 spanner to open the wheel bolt here. I mean the fuller plug. Tell them, yeah, for the wheel bolt that way made to fit in there. And or you can use the wheel bolt, put it there with the 17 spanner.
Now we just took a cloth with petrol to just wipe around whatever grease or grime is within there, so we know when we put the new seal in, it's going to be a clean surface, a clean area for the seal to go into, and there's just no grime or any dirt in there. Now also in petrol, you're just going to take the same cup that you removed and just clean it off. We saw that there was quite a bit of grime by the part that actually fits within the gearbox. So that we just need to clean off and just give it a good solid surface that there's no actual dirt or sand or anything to go in, because as you saw, this top cup actually fell off the table, so we just don't want to put any potential wear in it. And we actually saw it was a bit rougher than we'd like, so we took a bit of light sandpaper and just gave it a quick rub to get it down and just make it smooth.
Volkswagen.
So this is a seal we're going to be using. We got it from Goldwagon, just like majority of the other parts for this build. Honestly, Goldwagon was our go-to place for, let's say, like 85% of the parts. So Goldwagon, if you want to sponsor, you know, would be greatly appreciated. But anyway, moving on.
Comes with a new circuit. New seal, circlip, cover plate.
Now the first thing we're going to check if the seal actually goes over onto the cup, because we don't want to now have the seal that's wrong and just not fitting. So
Good.
make sure goes over the cover,
Cool.
then to go into the gearbox.
It's
Very
cool.
simple. Put it into place. Then with the hammer, you're just gonna lightly tap it down, make sure that it's seated. Now at first it may be a bit tricky, tapping on one side and it'll shoot out the other side. Don't mind that, just try and get level, start lightly tapping and it'll begin to get seated into place. So just keep working around the seal and just tap it into place. Now to just help it also get seated, you can take the old seal, just clean it off. You can put it in petrol or wipe it off with a cloth, but just make sure it's clean. You don't have whatever sand or whatever was already on it, because you're gonna put it on top of the new seal. Make it in line and then just lightly tap it. This way you guarantee that your new seal is gonna be sitting 100% flush in the box and it's gonna be seated correctly. From there, you want to take a little bit of oil, drop it onto your finger, and just run it on the inner lip of the seal. This way, you know, okay, it's just gonna help the cup go in smoother. It's not gonna be as rough and hard to actually get the cup in. So you're gonna put oil on the inner part of the seal as well as on the cup itself. So just rub a little bit of oil on the inner part of the cup and then try to marry the two. So you're just gonna put it in by hand at first. You just want to make sure it sits properly. You don't want to start applying a whole lot of force by banging with a hammer at first, because then you would run the possibility of damaging something. So get it in by hand first. Make sure okay it is seated properly. Then you can do what we did and get a flat piece of wood, and then you can use your hammer and just start knocking it down. And as you can see, with a banging you can actually get it down and just seat it. So it may take some time, just keep eyeing it that you aren't banging it and it's still in place. So that is how you are gonna get your cup back into position. Then afterwards, you're just gonna slide in the middle piece that goes on before the circlip. So this, not really that hard, it just pops over. So slot that in, and then you need to put your circlip in. Now to do that, we use two screwdrivers, one to just hold one end of the circlip down and the other to push it over, and as you can see, that's your circlip in place. Then next to go in was the release bearing. Yes, we moved on from there for the moment being. So decided to put in a release bearing. Very simple, just basically drop it in place. So we need to put the new replacement cover on, because as you saw earlier in the video, yeah, that cover got destroyed. So to install the new one, you're just gonna take a light bit of sealer, Victor Rhines if possible, and you're just gonna work it. You don't need to put a lot of sealer on, just a thin layer around it to just act as a sealant, and make sure that the sealer, and just to make sure that the cap won't come off anytime soon. So run your finger around the rim of the cap with the sealer and then you can put it in place. and that's the new side plate fitted. So just like that, it took a few taps from a wooden block and it's in place. Now to keep the metal arm in place, well, we needed to put this black rubber piece. This basically acts as a stopper. As you can see, it hits against that part on the gearbox and that stops the arm from swinging back further than it's supposed to. Now my box didn't actually come with that for some reason, so we had to find one, and luckily we had one spare. So for the cover that's gonna go to just block or keep the circlip and no dirt or debris going inside there, well, to put the cover on, we found a big enough socket that basically just fits it, and with the hammer gave it a few knocks and got it down into position. So after that, you're gonna take sealer and just put a lot of sealer around it. That way you know for certain that there's gonna be no chance of any oil leaking out of it. So run your finger around it and just fully enclose it and guarantee that there's gonna be no leak coming from there. With one side done, it was time to tackle the other side. So I thought, you know what, let me try and get the circlip out in the meantime while my father was gone somewhere else. So circlip, as I said, you just take your pliers, put it into position and try and stretch the circlip open enough to just get it over and out of position. And luckily for me, that happened first time. One shot. After that, it was just to get the metal plates out, which was a bit difficult compared to the other side because this side had a lot more sealer than the previous side. Now this side wasn't as bad as the previous side when it came to how much banging we needed to do. It took about 30 seconds, well, it took less than a minute to actually knock it off, which was a massive improvement compared to the other side. So just like the other side, we're gonna follow the same steps. Firstly, you're gonna take your seal out. After you get your seal out, you want to clean out the area where the seal was, because you want a clean surface area. Then you're gonna take your new seal, put it into position, get a hammer and just tap it in, knock it in so it sits flush. You remember, you can use your old seal after you clean it off and get it to go flush. Afterwards, clean off the cup, then put oil around the seal, put oil around the cup to just help it go in a lot smoother, and then put it in by hand. Now as I said, just push it in, get it in. Once that's done, well, get a good old plank. Once the plank's there, hammer and bang it down. Once you see, you'll notice, okay, it won't go anymore, it won't go further, then you're good to go. After that, you're gonna take the small metal piece that goes before the circlip, you're gonna put that in, followed by the circlip. So once you get the circlip in place, then put the metal plates over with some sealer and just seal it up. That way you know you aren't gonna get any potential oil leaks coming from there once the sealer dries. So then you're done. Moving on, we're gonna take all the other seals out of the gearbox. To get these seals out of the gearbox, you're gonna use a thin screwdriver and just try and get it under the seal and just pull it out. It's gonna be a bit of a task to do so, but this is the way you do it. I'm sure there is probably a better way or some other way to actually get it done, but this way, I mean, it works. When putting the new seal in, just like all the other seals, you're gonna oil the inner parts of it to just help it go in and over the shaft. And once you get it there, well, to actually knock it into position, what we used was a big chisel. Now I know it's not the first go-to item you think to use to actually knock it into place, but if you use a screwdriver, you do run the risk of actually punching a hole through the seal. Whereas if you use a large blunt object, just like a chisel, really no risk of punching a hole. Now with the small seal, we're going to use a small set long extension with a 10mm socket to just help tap it into place and get it seated properly. From there, what we did next, we put oil on the rod. This way, you know, just lubrication purposes, you know, just slide it in there, and that is now the gearbox complete. So with everything now in order, brand new seals all over the place, it is time for us to now just clean up the box and get it ready for paint. So after cleaning the box, I was quite chuffed with how it looked with just cleaning. Now, of course, we're still gonna paint it. So after this, we still need to mask up all of the areas that I don't want paint on. So while I was busy with the box, I also decided, you know what, we need to spray the mounting as well. So wire brushed it there, and we're gonna spray this black, whereas the gearbox is gonna be sprayed silver. So I want to know from you guys in the comment section, spray the gearbox or just left it original? So I also want to hear from you guys, what do you think of these longer videos? I know this video is like 30 minutes long, but I saw majority of you in the comment section of the last video asked for longer videos. So is this too long of a video or is it just right? But if you guys do go on to enjoy this video, don't forget, leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and we are so close to honing in on 1,000 subscribers. It's so mad because we've been at this for what, under 2 months now. So I just want to say thank you for all of those people who have subscribed, who have been leaving comments. It means so much to me, and just thank you for the continuous support. So now that the box is fully masked up and ready for paint, there's only one thing left to do, and that's paint. So we went for just, I think it's high heat silver if I'm not mistaken, by the Glue Devil brand. So that is what we went for paint wise, and to be honest with you, I think it came out amazing. But let me know once again in the comment section. And with this being said, this is the video done and dusted. This is our gearbox. Now I still need to unmask it, but you will see that in the next video once we do install it with the engine. So if you guys do want to enjoy this video, don't forget, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.